It is Monday, January 29th, and this is The National.
Tonight, an alleged serial killer. 5 victims and a disturbing question. How many more could there be? What we've learned about Bruce McArthur and his alleged crimes.
Plus, 1 year ago tonight, a gunman opened fire at a Quebec City mosque. We ask, what's changed?
And harassment on the Hill. How Canadian politics is coming to terms with its Me Too moment.
But we begin here in Toronto, where police are scouring multiple crime scenes and appealing to homeowners for help, all to find clues about an alleged serial killer and potential victims.
Mr. McArthur has now been charged with 3 additional counts of first-degree murder.
Landscaper Bruce McArthur is now accused of killing 5 people. Majid Kahan, last seen at a family wedding in October of 2012. Saroush Mahmoudi, who went missing in 2015. And Dean Lisowick, a homeless man, according to police, who might have been killed as early as May 2016. These 3 men are now in addition to the charges laid earlier this month for the killings of Salim Essen and Andrew Kinsman. But also new today, word of a gruesome discovery. Human remains of exactly how many, unknown. Their identities also unknown.
They can't be identified because they're skeletal remains and they have been dismembered. So we have to wait for DNA tests.
What is clear now is that this investigation is far from over. Joanna Remiliotis gives us a sense of its widening scope and the man at the center of it.
Police aren't mincing words. This, they say, is an unprecedented case and a chilling one.
It's a serial killer, alleged serial killer, and he's taken some steps to cover his tracks.
Police began to uncover those tracks here at this Toronto home when they removed 2 large planters and in them found the dismembered remains of at least 3 people. The expectation is they will find more.
Mr. McArthur earned his living as a landscaper. Investigators have identified approximately 30 properties within Toronto where Mr. McArthur worked. We have contacted owners of these properties and have conducted searches at the majority of them.
The grisly update comes 11 days after police first arrested 66-year-old Bruce McArthur. Since then, dozens of officers have been working around the clock, scouring properties that extend outside of the city.
Just to tackle one crime scene can sometimes take days, weeks, especially when we're dealing with found human remains as opposed to a scene contained within a dwelling or some type of a unit.
As police connect the dots between the victims, more may emerge. CBC News has learned this man, Skandaraj Nevaratman, who disappeared in 2010, was in a romantic relationship with McArthur and worked with him as a landscaper. McArthur has not been charged in connection with his disappearance. As for McArthur, a picture of who he is still developing. McArthur was married with 2 children in Oshawa, Ontario. When he came out, he moved to Toronto in the early 2000s. In October of 2001, McArthur was charged with assaulting a man with an iron pipe and was later convicted. Part of his sentence required him to stay away from Toronto's gay village. But he remained active on several online dating sites up until days before he was arrested. At his apartment in Toronto, police are still combing for evidence, and residents are still reeling.
Doesn't leave me with a good feeling. I think it's pretty horrific.
Back at that house where police uncovered those remains, the owner told us she is still in shock. McArthur stored his tools there. In exchange, he took care of Karen Fraser's yard. Fraser has known him for years and also spoke to CBC's As It Happens.
But you have to understand, he has been kind, helpful, help with our charity work, doing floral gifts for silent auctions. He went above and beyond what our original agreement was to cut the grass.
Fraser says she wants to believe McArthur is innocent. But as police continue to pull back the layers of a suspected serial killer, she admits it's getting harder. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, this investigation is expanding. 2 of the victims named today have no known connection to Toronto's gay village. But most of the victims do. And some people in that neighborhood feel the police failed to act sooner because of who the victims were. Ron Charles has reaction from the village.
For people in Toronto's gay village, today's confirmation of an alleged serial killer is just starting to sink in. But talk to anyone on the Strip here, and there is little surprise at the news.
Everyone's been saying that there seems to be a serial killer out there, and you know, it's about time that that this person be found. So I'm relieved that that person has been found, but you know, what took them so long?
What took so long is a question on the minds of a lot of LGBT community advocates. Some wonder if it's because 3 of the alleged victims are also from immigrant communities.
I think racism has something to do with it, homophobia has something to do with it, classism has something to do with it. So when you look at all of those issues, they all play a part in terms of how people are viewed as credible sources of information within society, and who is not, and who is worth investigating, who is not.
Dean Lissowick, one of the new alleged victims, had no fixed address and lived in the city's homeless shelters, including a couple of week-long stays at the Good Shepherd Centre in the eastern end of downtown Toronto.
As Dean hasn't been here for a while, we would have just assumed that he got a hand up somewhere and found somewhere safe where he could live and work and carry on as normal.
Another man is Saroush Mahmoudi, whose family reported him missing in 2015. The third man, Majid Kayhan, was the only one with clear ties to the LGBT community and the village. He was a regular on the main strip, particularly the Black Eagle bar, which McArthur is said to have also frequented. Kayhan's son reported him missing in October 2012. Police originally investigated his case along with earlier disappearances of 2 other men from the village. Abdul Basir Faisi and Skandaraj Navaratnam were both reported missing in 2010.
To me, it's very scary. The whole thing is so staggering.
James Dubrow is author of several books on crime in Canada and also has close ties to the LGBT community. He says police failed to properly link the cases early on.
They should have put out a massive warning. They should have, I would say they could have, but it's hard to say this, they should have been hot on the trail a lot earlier, certainly by 2012-13.
That raises a distressing question for people here in Toronto's gay village and surrounding neighborhoods. Could an earlier police warning have saved lives? Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
And Ian, that question of who knew what and when, it's going to be central to all of this moving forward.
Well, Andrew, as we just heard, the question many are asking, when did police first believe they were dealing with a serial killer? Let's take a look at how a missing persons case turned into something much more sinister. In October 2012, Majid Kayhan goes missing. The following month, Toronto police launch Project Houston, a probe into disappearances in the gay village. It concludes in 2014 without any suspects. Over the next 3 years, 4 more people disappear. Police launch a second probe, Project Prism, in August 2017. And by September, they've already got Bruce McArthur under the microscope. When he sells his van, police are at the auto parts dealer within weeks, collecting potential evidence.
They had found some blood inside the van, not large amounts, but small traces.
On December 8th, police updated their missing persons investigation and were asked about public concerns one person was responsible. Here's how the chief responded.
It's not a serial killer based on the evidence.
On January 18th, just over a month later, police arrest McArthur for the murders of Essen and Kinsman.
In policing, what we do is we follow the evidence, and what I said at the time that I said was accurate at that time.
It's a media definition for serial killer. I'm telling you, he's killed at least 2 people.
Today, police are saying what some have been speculating for months.
Morning. What kind of case is it? It's a serial killer.
Well, for more on this, we're joined by Michael Arntfield, a criminologist at Western University and a former police officer. Michael, there are people who are upset that the Toronto Police Service did not identify their suspect here earlier as a serial killer. And I wonder, do you think that there's a reason for that? Could there have been a strategic reason, for example?
There can often be a strategic reason why the police would hold back information, particularly at that point in the investigation. I mean, we have reason to believe that by that point, the point of that press conference where they're denying the existence of a serial killer, they had McArthur at the very least as a person of interest, if not under constant surveillance. So again, this is in keeping sort of with standard practices. You wouldn't want to tip him off that point or ever. So I'm not surprised they withheld that.
But some people in the gay community, for example, worry that if there had been a serial killer at large at that point, why didn't they get a warning? Do you think that suggests to you that the Toronto Police Service maybe had eyes on him all the time at that point?
I'm satisfied, and I think it's reasonable to infer from the evidence that by that point, they had him under, at the very least, loose surveillance, if not electronic surveillance and 24/7 physical surveillance, and that no other person was in any danger. So time will tell where the investigation was at that point and what the rationale was for making that statement. And at this point, I think we need to focus on these other crime scenes.
Let's talk about the victims, and I want to play a clip from earlier today from the lead investigator on victims.
As I said, the last two victims that we've identified don't quite fit the profile of the earlier victims. So, and as I've said, we don't know how many more victims there are going to be, but it certainly encompasses more than the gay community. It encompasses the city of Toronto.
Are you surprised at all that these victims don't fit into a very narrow pattern?
I'm not. We see this historically with a number of serial offenders, particularly older offenders, and where they will vary their victims and vary in their preferences. I mean, most serial offenders have what we call a preferred victim, someone that they will defer to under ideal circumstances, but frequently they're prepared to, like most people, compromise and experiment a little. And it's called victim polymorphism, meaning that, and going back to Clifford Olson, he was a key case study in this respect, in that he had younger victims initially, and then who were female, and then older male victims. So this is atypical, but not unheard of.
And what about McArthur's age here, 66? Does that surprise you?
It certainly is on the older end. I mean, Albert Fish for many years was considered to be the oldest serial killer in American history, who began in his 50s, and they called him the Gray Man for that reason. And McArthur at 66, I mean, we have victims going back about 10 years, but I would not be surprised, given the sort of sophistication of his modus operandi, if they go back much earlier.
Michael Arnfield, always a pleasure to have your expertise. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Oh, Rosemary, let's move on to another story that's been developing over the last few days, this one in Ottawa.
Yeah, that's right, Ian. After a week of sexual misconduct allegations hitting political circles today, MPs are on the Hill. They are starting to speak up and starting to speak out.
And I'm tired of it. I don't want to sit in this place and have this conversation again. I don't want another woman to come into my office. This needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. And it's every person's job in here, every person who's listening, to take on that personal responsibility of putting dignity and human rights ahead of abuse or their sexual desire.
That was just part of an impassioned speech in the House of Commons today during debate on a new bill dealing with sexual harassment, a bill that some might think can't get passed fast enough, especially given the latest allegations and resignations involving men in the halls of power. David Cochran now on the calls for a culture shift.
It's a legislative change, but MPs say what's really needed is a cultural one.
Time is up. Things need to change.
We can't be bystanders any longer.
The problem, people who hold some of the highest offices in the land committing the lowest forms of behavior.
In our workplace here on Parliament Hill, it's no coincidence that we have so many of these stories of harassment and violence.
Patrick Brown and Rick Dykstra were forced out of their jobs in Ontario provincial politics. But what they are accused of doing happened while they were Conservative members of Parliament. In Dykstra's case, he's accused of sexually assaulting a young female staffer after a night of drinking in 2014. CBC News has not independently verified the story, but Maclean's magazine reports that top Conservative officials knew about the allegations in 2015 and let Dykstra seek re-election anyway.
They should be ashamed of themselves, and they should have no role or influence in this or in any political party.
Kim Purchase is one of those people who knew. She was a senior Conservative staffer at the time. Purchase says the accuser asked her to keep it secret.
And she asked me for my word that I would not do anything further on it. But I did say that I gave her my word. It was her choice. But if she changed her mind at any time in the future, she could call me.
That Made in Ottawa problem has sent the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario into a nosedive. Having lost its leader and its president, the party's chief of staff is trying to stop the bleeding. In a memo warning, if you have engaged in inappropriate behavior, you need to leave and leave now, because I will redefine the meaning of the word ruthlessness in protecting staff who work for me. In less aggressive language, that's also the point of Patty Hajdu's legislation.
You know, we talk a lot about getting women into politics, and if we can't actually protect the women staffers in our own workplaces, we have a long ways to go.
To change the way politics is done, where even a feminist prime minister has had to deal with sexual harassment allegations in his caucus, his cabinet, and right in his office. And to change the culture of Parliament.
Women are still touched. Our hair is still stroked. Our shoulders are still rubbed.
Where women are still treated far differently than the often more powerful men. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
As for the turmoil that David mentioned there inside the Ontario Progressive Conservative ranks, party faithful in the province are anxious to put it all behind them, including this familiar face.
Right now, the party needs strong leadership. Someone who is ready to clean up the mess and lead us into the June election.
Yeah, that's Doug Ford, brother of the late Toronto Mayor Rob Ford. He triggered the unofficial start of the Ontario Conservative leadership race today by throwing his hat into the ring in a press conference in his mother's basement. The party has said a leadership vote will be held in March.
Not everybody likes me, and that's okay. I accept that.
Back in Ottawa, Green Party leader Elizabeth May said she has asked for an independent inquiry into allegations of misconduct against her. 3 former staff members have accused May of workplace bullying, which she denies. May says the results of the investigation will be made public. So what recourse do Hill staffers have? Right now, they need to make a complaint to the Chief Human Resources Officer. It'll then be resolved in one of 3 ways. Informally, like asking that person to just stop that behavior or getting some sensitivity training. Mediation, or through a formal investigation. That's when an outside investigator is brought in. Last year, there were 6 complaints filed for harassment and abuse of authority. Of those, 2 were formally investigated and no wrongdoing was found. Worth noting, there were no complaints to HR for sexual harassment.
And still ahead on The National, Major League Baseball benches a controversial figure. We'll hear from those celebrating the end of the Cleveland Indians mascot.
Plus, her death sparked calls for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. 4 years after Tina Fontaine's body was found, the man accused in her death faces trial.
And 1 year ago, 6 men were shot dead while praying. Tonight, we go to the scene of the ceremony to remember them, and in the national documentary, hear remarkable stories of heroism from that night.
J'aurais la honte toute ma vie si j'aurais pensé à me fuir et laisser les autres.
Have you ever wondered how a police sketch is put together? Well, we were wondering that too. That's why today we're visiting the Saskatoon Police Service and Sergeant Terry Lafferty.
What does this person look like?
Like I said, it was a woman. She's probably about my age, perhaps younger.
If you could just go through and when you see something that stands out as similar to that person, what you remember, just let me know and we'll make a note of it. And
okay. She's got that like angular, like the chin is pretty good.
You have to remember, these sketches are not for people that have never left their house and never encountered anybody.
Yeah.
Sketches are for the police officers, friends and family of the suspect, really,
yeah.
Or acquaintances, people that know them. That's how we do it. It's all you're not likely going to, and it's very rare that you would walk down the street and walk past somebody that you saw in the sketch. That's right. Really, people are expecting to match a photo with a photo. Sketch, it's just an enhancement of some certain characteristics where a friend's going to go, you know, that guy kind of has the same
right.
this as little Joey or whatever. Well, I'll show you what I have so far, and then we can go from there. Okay. So right off the top, what do you like and what would you like to change?
I feel like her face needs to be thinner,
Sure.
is my first reaction.
Okay.
Around here, like I feel it could even come up as
Sure.
far as that. It's our meteorologist,
Oh,
Christy
that's hilarious.
Kleimenhaga. The funny thing for me, when I went back and I looked at this, I got her outfit completely wrong. So imagine just being that person who you're describing someone who you saw briefly, perhaps in a traumatic event.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm just describing someone who's on my news last
That's right.
night.
Why does the word Islamophobia make us uneasy? Well, it's because it goes to fears. It goes to the irrational elements inside of us. We need to challenge ourselves. We need to be better than we are.
A message of unity as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau joined survivors and the people of Quebec City to mark the one-year anniversary of the mass shooting at the mosque.
Ibrahima Bari, âgé de 39 ans.
The vigil began with the reading of the victims' names and that of their children.
Mamadou Tanou Bari, âgé de 42 ans.
As people remembered the 6 men shot and killed 1 year ago as they prayed in their mosque.
I know some people that are Musulman, and I know they are not different from any of us.
Hundreds turned out in the cold to condemn the attack, and most of all, to lend support to the community.
We have to accept each other, and we have to live together. And it brings up emotions a bit, but it's important to learn the differences of other people, other cultures, and to accept to live together.
But a year later, and many in the Muslim community feel that something has changed in Quebec City, but not necessarily for the better. As our Jayla Bernstein explains, the city continues to grapple with the issues of hate and Islamophobia.
The climate of hate, it's rise.
In the years since 6 men were gunned down and killed at the Quebec City Mosque, the centre and its members have repeatedly been the targets of hate.
We talk about living together, and after that, there is no stop of crime of hating.
There was the defaced Quran that showed up in the mail. They received racist letters, and the car of the mosque president was set on fire outside his home. It's all in harsh contrast to the vigils and solidarity that followed in the days after the massacre. Quebecers showed unity, and politicians preached tolerance.
Words can be knives slashing at people's conscience, and we have to be more cognizant of this. I hope that we will start by expressing positive values first: inclusion, brotherhood, working together.
Despite the Premier's words, in the year that followed, the number of reported Islamophobic hate crimes and incidents in Quebec City doubled. And every time the government is confronted with the issue, it repeats the same line.
I don't think that Quebec society is any more racist or discriminatory than any other society in the world. But at the same time, in order to defend our values, we have to emphasize that we live in an inclusive society.
Quebec City Police acknowledge there's a problem. By the spring, as many as 140 investigators will have gone through hate crime training. The mosque has increased its security too, but beyond safety measures, some say there's a need for a change in rhetoric. One of the survivors of the attack says to have an inclusive Quebec, leaders need to start setting an example.
On a vu comment plusieurs partis ils ont réussi à faire campagne électorale à base de anti-islam.
Despite the hate they've faced in the past year, community members are hopeful. They say many of their neighbors continue to stand by their side.
There were indeed many standing outside tonight in the cold for that vigil, and Jayla Bernstein was there too. What was the tone of the message tonight, Jayla?
Well, one of the messages that came through clearly tonight was that never again do we want a repeat of January 29th. We heard from family members of the victims, also close loved ones. One of the widows of one of the victims said that she wants everyone across Canada to know how much their support and solidarity means to her and her family as they grieve.
Okay, Jayla Bernstein in Quebec City again tonight. Thank you. This story is the focus of tonight's national documentary, how some of those shooting victims are determined to rebuild their lives and take back their community.
We change color to change the ambiance in the mosque and to forget about the bad ambiance that we had.
Com. They were all over the forecast that we would have quite a bit of rain in a short amount of time, and unfortunately this was one of those areas that washed out.
On the National tonight, an incredible rescue from flooding on Vancouver Island. A woman saved after her car went into a massive hole. The roads washed out from heavy rainfall. Downpours have caused flooding across BC's south coast. Some of the hardest hit areas have seen more than 100 millimeters of rain, 4 inches, in the past day.
This is quite simply a financial dumpster fire.
Strong words from BC's Attorney General after the province's auto insurer, ICBC, projected a $1.3 billion loss. The government says if it doesn't take drastic action, drivers could face a hike in premiums of $400 a year. Keep in mind, drivers in BC can't shop around. Their basic auto insurance must be bought from the government corporation. The Attorney General says he'll announce a plan later this year to avoid increasing rates. CBC News has learned that 2 Toronto police officers have been suspended after allegedly consuming pot edibles on the job. Sources say Vittorio Dominelli and another officer called for help when they started hallucinating. Sources say the 2 officers were found in a police vehicle and later treated in hospital. Pick up the pace. That was the message from the U.S. trade representative today as the 6th round of NAFTA talks wrapped in Montreal. Canada and Mexico says progress was made, but the U.S. says it's not happening fast enough.
We are progressing very slowly. We owe it to our citizens who are operating in a state of uncertainty to move much faster. Of course, negotiating as a group of 3 is more difficult than bilateral talks. Often issues become more complicated and contentious.
Some officials had feared the U.S. would pull the plug completely after this round. That hasn't happened yet. Canada is optimistic it won't.
We have started to really make progress on the bread and butter trade issues. We closed the anti-corruption chapter and we've gotten close on a number of others, so we're moving forward on those.
But the U.S. wasn't happy with Canada's so-called creative proposal around the contentious auto industry rules of origin. Washington also wants to dump the current dispute settlement systems, which Canada and Mexico call a poison pill. More talks are scheduled for next month in Mexico City.
MMIWG families and Indigenous women worked hard for decades and decades trying to bring attention to this issue and to the epidemic levels of violence against Indigenous women and girls. And Tina Fontaine was the little girl that brought us all together.
She was just 15 years old when she vanished from downtown Winnipeg. Her body was found 8 days later in the Red River. Her death shocked the country, and she became the face of calls for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. And today, the trial for the man accused of killing her finally got underway. Cameron McIntosh was in the courtroom.
Tina Fontaine's family and friends wore red ribbons as they walked into court. For the first time since her body was pulled from Winnipeg's Red River, they heard her voice.
I like to report a blue truck that was stolen earlier today.
A 911 call reporting a truck stolen, allegedly by the man on trial for killing her.
Do you know who stole it? This guy named Sebastian.
The Crown says Sebastian is 55-year-old Raymond Cormier, charged with second-degree murder, alleging he wanted to have sex with 15-year-old Fontaine, then killed her after finding out she was underage, worried in part her call over the truck would tip off police. It's taken almost 4 years to get here. All along, this case has been under intense pressure and scrutiny. From the very beginning, Tina Fontaine was much more than just an unfortunate statistic on Winnipeg's unforgiving streets. It started when police found her body, a 15-year-old dumped in a river.
I think, society, we'd be horrified if somebody if we found a litter of kittens or pups in the river in this condition.
Her death led urgency to calls for a national inquiry into murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, which is now underway. The minister who called it said Fontaine's death was a factor.
I think it did galvanize the nation.
Nahani Fontaine is a Manitoba NDP MLA and MMIW activist.
It was a moment for certainly all of us here in Manitoba, but for everybody across the country to really get a more intimate understanding of the reality and the crisis.
While the crime caused the country to look at itself, it's just one man on trial. What's unclear is just how strong the case against Cormier actually is. The Crown admits there are no eyewitnesses and that most of the forensic evidence was washed away, yet insists evidence will show Cormier was with Fontaine when she died and had a motive to kill her. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
In Saskatchewan, 7 women and 5 men have been chosen to serve on a jury that will decide the fate of a white farmer accused of killing an Indigenous man.
It was really difficult to sit there today and watch every single visible Indigenous person be challenged by the defense.
The family of Colton Boushey believes this case is a symbol of the racial divide in Canada. The 22-year-old Cree man was shot on Gerald Stanley's farm in 2016. Now, the initial jury pool for this case was unusually large, 750 people, but most didn't show up. And from the 200 or so who did, a third told the judge they couldn't be impartial. Stanley has pleaded not guilty. The use of Indigenous caricatures in North American pro sports has been a hugely controversial issue for years. But Major League Baseball has announced a change that will see the end of Chief Wahoo. If you don't know him by name, you almost certainly know his face. In a statement, MLB says Cleveland will stop using that logo on its uniforms effective 2019, saying the symbol is, quote, no longer appropriate for use on the field. And they've been using that kind of imagery for a long time, going back almost a century. The Chief Wahoo logo, as we know it, made its debut on team uniforms in 1948. It's gone through some changes, but it's since been a constant for decades, right along with the angry opposition to it. Indigenous people saw it as an insulting racial stereotype, and increasingly others saw it the same way. Some Cleveland fans have defended the logo, some even arguing that Chief Wahoo actually honors Native American culture and tradition. But the number of people who believe that has gotten smaller and smaller over the years. Still, today isn't a total victory.
It's amazing to see decades of advocacy come to fruition with them realizing and recognizing that they have to pull the Chief Wahoo mascot, which is like the most offensive logo by far in professional sports. I mean, I think it's kind of disingenuous to admit something is racist and admit something is offensive and derogatory to a people and then keep it around for another year.
Also worth noting, the name of the team, controversial in its own right, is staying just the way it is.
But cogitating on the foibles and vagaries of the human species does not come easily. Like all truly creative minds, Arthur Black needs his space. And it is here, in his spacious CBC office, that he comes up with his most brilliant ideas.
So, what is this swap meet thing all about?
The swap meet, the second annual swap meet. Come on out in the hall, I'll show you some of the goods we got. Right.
A plethora of truly unique items, carefully chosen for swapping tomorrow on the CBC Plaza.
It's amazing what you can do with dried apples.
Maybe you get one extra one just to fill it out.
I think I ate that. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, classic ceramic poodle in blue. Let's see this. Oh. This is my talking back scratcher. Doesn't talk. There it goes. That's a good one. And this is going to be a real hot taker, I think. The Trip Lewinsky tapes. I don't know why they sent them to us, but they sent them to us, and the plastic is still on them, I'd like to point out.
And well, hey, you know what they say about beauty and the beholder and all.
Not in my bathroom. This is not for sale at any price. So this is my pride and joy. The king at his bloated best.
The final promo.
Arthur Black here for the very last time to tell you what's coming up on Basic Black this Saturday morning. Yes, Basic Black is about to disappear, but not before you hear our final show recorded live in Thunder Bay last week, and what a blast. You kidding me? Thunder Bay, Las Vegas North?
Sin City, I kid you not. The final show. After 19 years as the host of CBC Radio's Basic Black, Arthur Black is retiring.
It just felt like the right time to stop. There comes a point, I think, where you stay on too long, you know, and I didn't want that to happen.
A tour of his office gives you a sense of what Black and his show is all about.
The king at his bloated best.
The wacky.
Classic ceramic poodle in blue.
The wild.
This is my talking back scratcher.
And the whimsical.
Wow! We had a contest on Basic Black where we got people to send in the socks that they couldn't find the mate for, and they sent them in by the thousands. So we then had a subsequent contest saying, what are we going to do with all these socks? And a fellow by the name of Ches Snow in St. John's, Newfoundland said, send them to me and I'll give you a love seat. The country's full of very strange people, and I love them all. They all seem to find this show, you know.
Arthur Black got his start with the CBC 30 years ago in Thunder Bay. That's why he returned to that city to do his final show. It's where Basic Black was born. The show moved to Vancouver, becoming the most popular variety show on CBC radio, attracting 600,000 listeners every Saturday morning.
You know what the big secret of our success? We were ignored by the CBC. Nobody tried to improve us. Nobody tried to bring in focus groups, you know, and say how we could improve in the yield and the reach of the show. They just left us alone, and it kind of grew like a mushroom in the dark.
What's in there?
This is for Anna.
Apart from the obvious, missing his colleagues, Arthur Black says he'll miss being behind the microphone.
made her cry.
It's been part of my life for 30 years now, and it's going to feel very weird not to have. I'm going to feel like one of those old guys with the paper hats with their trousers rolled up, you know, for a while.
Thank you, Arthur.
My dear.
Sudha Krishna, CBC News, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Mon pays, ce n'est pas un pays, c'est l'hiver.
Let's go back to Quebec City now, where hundreds joined together tonight for a message against hatred and racism. A big turnout came, like last year, to support the Muslim community. The mass shooting on this day a year ago ended 6 lives and dramatically changed many others. We spent some time with survivors to see how much has changed as they fight to reclaim their lives.
Vas-y, c'est ça, tire maintenant. Tire. Tire. Plus fort. Plus, encore, c'est ça. Tire les deux.
This has been Eamon Darbali's life for the past year, trying to figure out how to live in a broken body that no longer does what he wants. Darbali was shot 7 times, part of the bullets still lodged near his spine. Paralyzed, with some ability to move his arms, it is exhausting to do even the smallest thing.
Ça va prendre du temps, donc chaque jour j'ai des petits gains. Chaque jour je gagne un petit peu au niveau au niveau physique, au niveau mental, psychologique. Je gagne petit à petit en fait.
He was close to death in the days after. For 2 months, he lay in a coma, and despite his weakened state, he survived, and likely saved many others from dying too. A year ago, a gunman stormed this place of worship, breaking the solace of prayer, killing 6 men and injuring 19 others. It was a hateful and targeted mass murder, and one that Darbali almost missed. He arrived for prayers late that night, somehow walked past the bodies of the first 2 victims, past the gunmen, realizing too late what was happening and deciding to do what he could.
Mon réflexe, j'ai essayé d'essayer de minimiser le nombre de victimes. C'est pour cela que je voulais qu'il tire sur moi et pas sur les autres.
That moment allowed others to escape. Darbali's decision to make himself a target means he is now considered one of the heroes of that night.
Heureusement, je n'ai pas eu le réflexe de me fuir. Je me dis que même si je me suis blessé, et j'étais gravement blessé, heureusement, je serais, comment dirais-je, j'aurais la honte toute ma vie si j'aurais pensé à me fuir et laisser les autres.
He put it like that and start shooting.
All in all, it lasted just minutes. But the worshippers had their back to the door when the shooter stormed in, and in the open space had little place to hide.
We changed color to change the ambiance in the mosque and to forget about the bad ambience that we had. Many traces of shooting here.
They have cleaned and repainted and repaired to try and diminish the tragedy, but they have left one vivid reminder.
The trace that we kept, trace of bullet.
One bullet hole fired into the bathroom door, and the person behind it somehow still survived.
It's like a miracle. That person was safe.
Mohamed Labedi says some things have improved over the past year. The community's relationship with police has changed, but the racism remains.
If you go in the street and have they look at you with hating, it's not good. You will have not a good life. You will be sad with that, and especially for women.
If anything, racism seems emboldened, with far-right groups in Quebec marching publicly on 2 occasions since the shooting. That comes as no surprise to Karim El Abed, who was tired and decided not to go to Mosque on the night of the shooting, and so was saved. He says he's never felt particularly welcome in this city.
We feel in danger because we face people who are very radical in their ideas, in their values, and their values are very different from us. We are here because we want to live together.
El Abed says he knows people who are now leaving because they feel nothing has changed since the shooting, and he doesn't want to be part of any memorial of those events.
Just to protect myself, because I don't need to remember this tragedy, really.
J'étais caché comme ça. Lorsque j'entends des balles qui arrivent, je mets la tête en avant. Lorsque j'entends pas de balles, je le regarde.
Saïd Akjour was there that night. He arrived for prayers on time, which meant he quickly became a target. At first, he had no idea he was hearing gunshots. He hid and eventually took a bullet in the shoulder.
Je l'ai senti tout de suite, c'est comme un coup d'un couteau qui est rentré. Oh, j'étais conscient, j'ai dit, oh, je suis blessé.
Akjour saw his friends fall that night and thought he too might die. His recovery hasn't been easy, but he has been able to return to work part-time, into the parts of his life that give him some joy.
Je suis fier d'être canadien et aussi l'aspect québécois aussi.
Amender Bali finds his own moments of happiness with his children on his weekly visits home. He has not lived here since the shooting. It is a 4th-floor apartment and not adaptable to his wheelchair. Canadians have donated tens of thousands to build him a new home, but it is still not enough.
Up.
And he has not yet figured out just how to be a father with his physical limitations. His son Ayoub refuses to believe his father will never walk again, never play soccer again.
Lui, il ne veut pas accepter ça. Donc, c'est ça. Moi, je me dis, bon, je dis, OK, toujours Ayoub, on garde l'espoir dans la vie. Si on n'a pas quelque chose, on a d'autres choses. On peut gagner d'autres choses. On perd des choses, mais on peut gagner.
Ayoub!
Derbali, too, feels attached to this place, this city, what he calls his community. It is still the place he wants to raise his children and rebuild his life. There's something else inside that mosque that hasn't been moved since January 29th, 2017. Another powerful remember of what was lost on this day a year ago, and that image is tonight's lens.
The Calgary Police Test Track in southeast Calgary. This is where police recruits learn the art of pursuit driving, and where reporters like me get to find out what impaired driving means. I did some drinking and some driving under the supervision of the Calgary Police. The test worked like this. First, I drove the skill test track cold sober. Now, on the line, I want my left wheels on this yellow line.
Yeah, both left wheels at the same time.
Okay. And now my right wheels have to go over this yellow dot here.
The right front with the right rear.
Okay, hope I hit it. And now through this narrow-looking gate here. Then I did the whole thing in reverse gear. To qualify, a police recruit must drive the course in less than 2 minutes and 15 seconds, with no more than 3 errors. Okay.
Yeah, that is a qualifying time.
Is it?
Yep.
Terrific. Then it was inside for a few drinks. The amount was calculated on my height and body weight. I drank Crown Royal Rye, good stuff, with ice, no mix, and I had something to eat. Constable Dave Ingeberg ran the test and played bartender.
Okay, drink up, Bob, because we gotta give you one more, and then that's it.
After the drinking session, I took the standard police breathalyzer test.
Okay, Bob, your result is 120 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. The legal limit being 80 milligrams of alcohol. You're 40 milligrams over this time.
Okay, I've had 10 ounces of Crown Royal and a couple of sandwiches in the last hour and a half, 2 hours. I feel fine. In fact, I'm confident that I'll do even better than I did dead sober, and I'm not holding up the car. Go. There we go. The narrow gate. Looks like a pretty good approach here, if I do say so myself. Here we go with the wheels over the little yellow dot. As usual, the wrong wheels.
That was after the 10 ounces.
After 10 ounces. Oh, hit one. Okay, well, make the best we can of it. Okay.
Say, little dog, gonna come out of retirement, make a comeback? Rocky, Rocky.
I'm in the best shape of my life.
The Olympic Winter Games are coming to CBC, Canada's Olympic Network.
On the National tonight, the Philippines' most active volcano continues to spew lava and ash, threatening the villages that surround it. More than 80,000 people have been forced to leave, and the government is considering making the area around the volcano what it calls a permanent no man's land to avoid future evacuations.
The president wasn't part of this decision-making process, and we would refer you to the FBI.
The White House reacting to reports today that FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe has abruptly resigned. The president has been highly critical of McCabe, accusing him of being biased. McCabe was set to retire in March, so it's not exactly clear why he's leaving early. U.S. media are reporting he was under pressure from the head of the agency.
I know. I'm never alone.
It sounds harmless enough. The social media company Strava uses GPS and fitness trackers to show where people around the world are exercising. But now the U.S. military is looking at how that might be putting troops in danger. Analysts say that service members who use fitness trackers while jogging have unwittingly shared information about their location and activities. The Pentagon says it's reviewing the situation. And President Trump getting ready for a major speech tomorrow, but according to some of the tickets to the event, he'll be addressing the State of the Union with an M. A number of tickets are being recalled due to the typo. Trump will deliver the State of the Union speech tomorrow night. We'll have the highlights, analysis, and a reality check right here on The National.
Alessia Carr.
Wow, I'm shaking. I've been like pretend winning Grammys since I was a kid, like in my shower. So you'd think I'd have like the speech thing down, but I absolutely don't.
She actually gave a terrific speech. 21-year-old Alessia Cara from Brampton at last night's Grammys, succeeding where Justin Bieber, Alanis Morissette, and Drake could not, as the first Canadian to ever win the Best New Artist Grammy Award. And of course, in addition to her talent, Cara will also have the benefit of, has had the benefit of growing up with YouTube, which was instrumental in her rise to fame.
It's not about the money, money, money.
Cara started posting songs to her YouTube channel when she was a teenager.
I don't want to lose it now.
Though at first it was more about overcoming her own crippling shyness than achieving fame.
You know, I was a really shy person, right?
But over the years, her confidence grew, and so did her fan base.
So pardon my manners. I hope you'll understand.
The record industry took notice. Her debut album, Know It All, came out in 2015, featuring the debut single, Here, sung from the perspective of a shy person at a party.
I'm not listening, no, I'm indifferent.
It was a smash hit.
No scars, you're beautiful.
More hit singles followed from the album, which has sold more than 1 million copies in North America.
As dreams to be, and then be so sheets. Starving, you know, cover girls.
Very cool. Well, speaking of dreams coming true, most basketball fans can only dream of being able to play alongside their favorite NBA team, but one sneaky fan took matters into his own hands. So that guy most definitely does not play for the New Orleans Pelicans. His name is Tony Roberts. He hatched a master plan to get onto the court with his heroes, and it almost worked. We tracked Tony down to get his story for our moment of the day.
I'm comedian Tony Roberts out of Sacramento, California, a.k.a. the Pelican fan. I'm sitting courtside, you know, my boy, the boss. The Marcus gave me the tickets, sit me courtside. At the halftime, they're warming up. I'm looking at my top. I got the same warm-up jacket they got on. The Marcus gave it to me. I'm like, I put the hood on and went out there. I'm a Pelican. What would you do? I started getting it. What I didn't know was I'm gonna get the ball. When I got the ball, it got real. That's when everything got real. I'm like, oh my God, I got the ball. So I took the shot. Everybody wanted to make the shot. When the police came, I told him, he got mad because I told him, I play for the team. But he was like, man, you know, Barney Fife daddy. You bet, I'm going to kick you out the arena. He was in his early thousands, like he was in the Bible. So that was it, man. I didn't know it was going to go like that. I did not know.
You know, the thing I found curious about that footage is that you've seen pictures before of people getting on the field of play, like in soccer games, and they get thrown down to the field and dragged off. But when you're sitting courtside, it's a whole different world.
He stood out for me, though. A little shorter, not quite as fit
little.
as the other fellas.
What are you saying,
That was a
Rosie?
giveaway. Nothing. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
Just,
I mean, on that note, the thing I was most curious about is whether he made the shot, because I'm thinking if it wasn't the stretching that tipped security off, maybe...
or the jumping
It
jack.
was the shot, yeah, exactly. That's The National for January 29th. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.